Hi, I'm Ashley McElwain, licensed marriage and family therapist and founder and CEO of Foundation Restoration. Welcome to Foundation Restoration's Real Talk podcast, where you'll find real people discussing real issues while offering real help at the intersection of clinical expertise and a biblical perspective. We're so glad you've joined us. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Real Talk podcast. As always, so grateful to be together. Thank you for tuning in. So grateful for your time. And just a reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, make sure to take a minute to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And that way you get alerted when there's new episodes that are out. And also, if you have a chance to go ahead and give us a positive review, it just helps get our podcast where more people can see it. It gives us a little more visibility. So if you have a minute, we'd really appreciate for you to, like I said, subscribe, follow along, rate us, and as always, we appreciate you sharing. It's crazy. This is May. I call this Maycember because in so many ways, May is a lot like December. School's wrapping up and always lots of things going on related to that. So definitely one of those months that mayhem, Maycember, it's craziness. But the cool thing about May is that it marks 15 years of ministry for us here at Foundation Restoration, which is just a really cool thing. It's a huge honor. So grateful to have 15 years of ministry under our belt and of saving lives, marriages, and families. What an honor. We are just incredibly grateful. A few things about that I mentioned in the last podcast to make sure that you're following along with us on social media. And, you can sign up for our e-newsletter through our website. You can log on there at www.foundationrestoration.org and just go to the contact us. Or if you scroll all the way down on the homepage, you'll see where you can sign up for our newsletter. But if you make sure that you're connected with us, you'll hear about some of the things that are happening. We are planning on doing an open house party celebration for our 15 years here at our office in Raleigh, and we'd love for you to join us. But that is to be determined. Still trying to figure out, like I said, May is crazy, and so we may do it sometime in June, and we'd love for you to join us. So come check out our office, check out the new training room, and come celebrate the Lord's goodness, hear about what we're about to do, and just come have some fun and celebrate what God has done and what God is doing. We will be trying to raise some money this month, just looking through the things that we have planned for the future and some other projects as we continue to grow and continue to sustain this ministry. So, keeping that in mind. And the other thing that I would ask is please, what we would love to have is for you to submit a short video. You can do it if you would rather just send an email, you can send an audio clip, but we want to hear your stories of how Foundation Restoration has impacted you in one way or another. We would love to hear your stories. We'd love to hear your encouragement. We'd love to hear your feedback. So if you could take a minute and submit to us, like I said, it would be great to get a little video clip that we could use in just kind of all of the 15-year celebration. But if you could send us a clip, you can send it directly to our social media through a direct message. You can send it through our contact page on our website, or you can email us at info@foundationrestoration.org. It can be, again, a video, it can be a little audio clip, it can be an email. But we would absolutely love to hear your stories and how, over the last 15 years, Foundation Restoration has impacted you, your loved ones, somebody in your life. So please keep that in mind. We'd absolutely cherish celebrating the Lord's goodness together in that way. Well, in today's episode, I want to talk about something that I recently discussed. I had a speaking engagement at a local church here in Raleigh, Wake Forest area, and it was just a really great, sweet time of talking through this topic. And I thought, once again, that I would use this topic and apply it to a podcast because I know a lot of people had said, oh, I would have loved to hear that. So I'm talking about real or fake and the ability to decipher between the two. But I was thinking through a few years back. I don't know if we have any other shark lovers or Shark Week lovers. I'm very fascinated by sharks, even though I'm also very terrified by sharks. And so It's funny because I went to school down in West Palm Beach, Florida, at Christian University there, Palm Beach Atlantic University. A little shout out there. I really wanted to be at the beach, be at the ocean. Absolutely love the sights and sounds, but I'm terrified of the water. I am convinced that I am going to be the shark attack victim. So it's funny. I am paranoid, petrified of sharks, but I'm fascinated by them. So, several years ago, I got really into Shark Week, and this was before kid because anytime, after kid, I no, I don't watch TV. But I got really into this, and I got really into this story about megalodons. If you know anything about megalodons, they're supposedly these giant sharks that are now extinct. And but in this show, it was a 2-hour documentary that had footage and witnesses and scientists all saying that megalodons are in fact still alive, that they're not extinct. And so I was just like fascinated. I got sucked into this for 2 hours watching this documentary, listening to these scientists, these experts, these witnesses, watching the footage, and being fully convinced that, in fact, megalodons are not extinct. They are alive, only to find out that it was a farce. It was this whole thing that was supposedly like trying to highlight extinction. I don't know. But the bottom line is they are not extinct, and the whole thing was a farce. And there was a lot of outrage about it. And I was definitely fooled by it. And it raised this question of just like, what is there that's out there that can be very convincing and yet not be real? And that was a perfect example of that situation. And it reminds me in general, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is just how more and more in this day and age, it's getting difficult to discern truth from lie, real from fake. And so we're surrounded by a lot of things that we have to assess whether or not it's real or fake. We live in a world that's in so many ways is an optical illusion. And so it leaves us with this question of what is real, what is fake in our lives and in the lives around us. An example of this, I was doing some research for this and was looking into deep fakes. I didn't really know a whole lot about deep fakes. And when I delved into this, I was like blown away by these videos of people and thinking, this has to be real. And knowing that, I mean, it says right there, like, nope, this is a deep fake. I was just astounded at what could be created that looked so realistic and so convincing when in fact, not at all. Um, we look at filters. I love when I was younger, or when my niece was younger, we used to do Snapchat because we thought it was so silly. I've done it with my son. We think those filters are kind of funny and silly, not necessarily an endorsement of Snapchat, but we can see how it's crazy how, you can face swap. There's all these crazy things that you can do. Obviously, filters on social media so that you look a certain way or so things appear a certain way, really cool functions, but they can really mitigate what's real and what's fake. And ultimately, we see too with social media the phenomenon of just presenting what we want people to see and that optical illusion. I talked a lot about that in a previous podcast where I talked about technology and the impact on mental health. But the bottom line is social media is very much we present what we want you to see. Also, I've talked about the example of how, I've posted about my little perfectly curated corner in my home where I do my quiet time, where I read my Bible, where I pray, and it looks so cozy and it's so sweet in that corner. But if I turn the camera around, you see that my living room is covered in toys, my couch sometimes you can't even sit on. It's just kind of very much the evidence of having a child is there and evident, but you don't see that in the picture. And that's so much of social media is it's what people want us to see, it's what we want people to see versus what really is. So again, we have this, it's not real, what's fake, what's just kind of an optical illusion, what is it that we're presenting versus the reality of what is happening. And obviously we see this too with the propaganda. There's so many things that are put out there through media, through internet searches, through social media, telling us what we should think and what we should believe. And there's a phenomenon, again, I talked about this in the previous, or in two, I think it was 2 episodes ago, talked about how there's a phenomenon, there's a lot of research on how we can believe something to be true, but if we're told something false enough times, we start to believe it. And certainly a lot of media outlets, social media, they know that. And so they continually present the information that they want us to believe. So you got the filters and the optics of this is what I want you to see, which is not necessarily real. We've got the propaganda and the messaging of this is what I want you to believe or think that isn't necessarily real. And so more and more, like I said, it's getting challenging to identify reality and real from fake and phony. So what about you? This leads to all that said, what about you? Are you who you say you are? Are you real? Is what you present real or is it fake? Is it filters? Is it facades? Is it optics? Is it masks? And really, even more importantly, backing that out, is your fruit real? And this is especially true for those of us who are followers of Jesus. We know that at the end of the day, like our lives should embody the fruit of the Spirit. And so that's the question that we have to ask ourselves is your fruit real? So when I was doing my speaking engagement, I had a bunch of different fruits. Some were real, some weren't. And it was really cool. I'd hold them up and ask everybody, is this real? Is this real? Is this real? Or is this fake? And it was kind of cool that, like, initially everybody, oh, that's fake, that's fake. But as they got better and better, people started really wondering and, like, ooh, and you got mixed messages and you kind of got mixed responses and you had people uncertain. Even with the real fruit, we had the same thing because, again, as the fake looked more and more real, it got harder and harder to tell what was real and what was fake. And so the thing we have to do is look at the things, the fruit, and decide, do we know if this is real or fake? And what that entails is that we have to examine it. We have to examine it, we have to test it, and we have to decide whether or not it's real or fake. And so where do we start? Where do we start with examining? Where do we start with testing? Well, it begins with the standard of what is real fruit? What is it that we're supposed to be trying to achieve? I would go back to Galatians 5:22 through 23, where it says that, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience or forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such things there is no law. This is the standard for us as believers. This is the fruit. So if we are followers of Jesus and we have the Holy Spirit working in our lives, this is the fruit. This is the standard. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. That's the real deal. That's the real fruit, and that's what we're working toward. So the first thing we have to do is then examine ourselves. Think about the scripture that talks about, like, before you get the log out of, or before you get a splinter out of someone else's eye, get the log out of your eye. So we have to start with ourselves and examine ourselves. I love how throughout the Psalms, we hear, and really throughout the Bible, we hear people say, "Search me, O Lord, search me, O Lord, search me, O Lord." And that's really what we have to do is first we have to get with the Lord and say, search me, O Lord. Search me and help me see what is real, what is fake, what needs to go, what can stay. And Matthew 23:27 through 28, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you're full of hypocrisy and wickedness. So again, we kind of see where straight up there's a warning and a woe to being a hypocrite, presenting one image as righteous. And this can be we're checking the blocks, we're attending the church, we're doing the right things, but we're missing something on the inside, and the inside doesn't match up with the outside. And so this is where we're not going for appearances, right? He says, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous. You appear, but you're not. So we have to ask ourselves, am I who I really say I am? Am I really that person? Am I truly doing these things, being these things, embodying these things through the power of the Holy Spirit? Or am I just appearing to be these things? And we have to really start examining ourselves and testing our fruit, using a spirit of discernment, using wisdom, and really going through and trying to figure out what in fact is real and what is fake, what is appearance and what is true. And just like you would with a real piece of fruit, you have to look at it, you have to smell it, you have to touch it, you have to examine it. Ultimately, you have to look in and see is what's on the inside of that fruit, because it can look very, very convincing. And all the fake fruit that I presented in my speaking engagement, it's like it could look real, but if you cut that open, what's on the inside? And that's the only way to really know true fruit versus fake fruit. Again, the outside can look very, very convincing, but what's on the inside can never be faked. And that's a very, very important point. So we have to examine ourselves and we have to ask the Lord to examine us and to search us to help us to decide, are we who we really say we are? Is this fake fruit? Is this real fruit? Am I who I want to be? Am I who God calls me to be? And that's what we have to really take the time to look at and examine and figure out. Then the next thing that we have to do is we do have to examine others. And I think that as believers, this is a very controversial topic in that we hear all the time, judge not, don't judge me, you can't judge me. And certainly God says we don't know the heart. Like man looks at the outside, God looks at the inside, he looks at the heart. And certainly he says, judge not lest ye be judged. I know all of those scriptures. At the same time, he also does call us to examine, and he does say the companion of fools leads to destruction. So it's like we have to know who we're around and what is real and what's not. We have to examine. To further illustrate this, Matthew 7:15 through 20 says, watch out, right? Examine, look around for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing. So the outward appearance is there, right? They look like a sheep, they're in the sheep's clothing, but inwardly, right? That inside, inwardly, they are ferocious wolves. What a contrast. Clothed as sheep, inside, ferocious wolf. You're the enemy, right? The enemy of a sheep is a wolf. So the enemy of a wolf clothes itself as one of the very things it's trying to destroy. By their fruit, you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. By their fruit, you will recognize them. Proverbs 13:20, and I was referencing this as walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So, again, this is important for us to look and say, is this who I should be around? Is this who I should surround myself with? Are these good influences? Are these people who are fruit bearing believers who help me be a better fruit bearing believer? Is there accountability? Is there their strengths help refine our weaknesses? Do our strengths help refine their weaknesses? Are we sharpening one another? Iron sharpens iron. And so again, he says we must examine their fruits. We have to look at the fruit because a companion of fools suffers harm. We don't want to suffer harm. We want to walk with the wise. And so that requires that we examine the fruit of those around us. So somebody can go to church, they can do all the things, but are they possessing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control? Is it real fruit or is it just the optics? Are they presenting what they want you to see, but in fact, if you cut it open, you see that there's no actual fruit in there and nothing to nourish the soul, nothing, it's just the bones, right? Like the Pharisees, right? They presented what they wanted people to see. I think about how we even talks about how don't be like those Pharisees. They go out on the street corner, they say their lofty prayers, right? Because they wanted everybody to look at them and say, oh, look at them, listen to their prayers. But in fact, the prayers were for themselves. They weren't really a way of communicating and cultivating a relationship and intimacy with the Lord. He says, like the Pharisees, don't go out fasting and, oh, yeah, look at me, I'm fasting. And they look distraught and they look like they're fasting. He says, no, clean yourself up, be normal, present yourself as normal to everybody else that they don't even know, because this is about your relationship with me. It's about what's happening on the inside. And the point of fasting is inward transformation, it's not outward presentation. And again, that's what God keeps calling us back to is it's I don't care how good the fruit looks. Is it actually fruit? Is it real or is it fake? And it's important for us to examine that in ourselves, but it's also important for us to examine that in those that we are doing life with, because we want to surround ourselves with real deal people, real deal followers of Jesus. And this is especially true as well with with youth. You know, as you're starting to and decide who your friends are, that can really change the trajectory of your life. It's very true with dating. Your spouse can make or break you. Your spouse and who you date can help you fulfill the mission and purpose of God and come alongside of you and fuel you in it, or they can inhibit you where instead of them really propelling you and encouraging you and strengthening you in pursuing what God created you to do, they can be the very thing that holds you back and keeps you from fulfilling the plans and purposes that God has for your life. Again, the important thing to recognize here is that this isn't about looking the part of a follower of Jesus. This is about being a follower of Jesus. And to be a follower of Jesus, we have to truly know him. We have to truly love him. And that comes from spending time with him. It comes from spending time in his word, understanding his love for us, what he did for us, how much he loves us genuinely. He didn't just say it, he did it when he went to the cross. And all that he endured for us, his words matched his actions. And that love is what we live in response to. And that is why we strive to be like him and have real fruit. All right, so I want to segue then into how do we make sure after we've examined our fruit, after we've examined the fruit of those around us, now what? What do we do with that? And this is something I would really caution you with. I think it's very important for us to consider is that proximity to Jesus just isn't enough. Being close to Jesus isn't enough. You say, what does that mean? Well, let's look at Matthew 26:21. And while they were eating, that's Jesus and his disciples at the Passover dinner before he was going to go to the cross, before he was betrayed, he said, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. He had 12 disciples, and one of them, one of those people who walked with him, who knew him, who ministered with him, they were going to betray him. And so this tells me proximity to Jesus doesn't make you a follower of Jesus. It doesn't mean you have a right relationship with Jesus. And that's a really important distinction for us. And I think there's a lot for us to learn from Judas. We all know, again, Jesus had 12 disciples, and that was his core group. And again, they spent all of this time together going around ministering to people, performing miracles. But what's so interesting to me is that not one person in all those years of ministering realized when Jesus made that statement, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. Not one of them immediately turned and said, Judas. We all know Judas is the betrayer. They all were like, oh my gosh, not me, not me, not me, not me. Who is it? Who is it? Right? So obviously, Judas was a very good counterfeit follower of Jesus. He was there in the thick of it, but yet, was he actually a part of it? He had everyone fooled. And here's the thing, even when Peter and John asked Jesus, they said, Jesus, who is it? Who's going to betray you? And here's the thing, Jesus told them, and they still didn't recognize that it was Judas. Judas, Jesus says, so here it is, John 13:26-30. Jesus answered, it is he to whom I'll give this morsel of bread to when I've dipped it. So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas. Ding, ding, ding. Son of Simon Iscariot. So you think at that point, John and Peter would say, oh, okay, it's Judas. They might have been a little shocked. But again, it says that they still didn't know, right? They were even told what the sign was, and they still did not recognize that it was Judas. So, continuing that passage, it says, then after he had taken the morsel, Judas, Satan entered into him, right? And you have to ask yourself, why was Satan even able to enter into him, right? Was he truly ever a follower of Jesus? Was he filled with the love of God? What was he filled with that Satan, or was he not filled with that Satan could enter him? And Jesus said to him, what you are going to do quickly. Again, to me, he's already told everybody somebody's going to betray me. He's already told John and Peter, this is how you're going to know. And so you would think what you're going to do it quickly. You think somebody in this group of disciples would now be like, oh, it's Judas. Judas is the betrayer, right? It says, now no one, this is verse 28, John 13:28. Now no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Nobody even thought at this point that it was Judas. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him, buy what we need for the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. So nobody recognized. Judas was so good at deceiving everybody and being a counterfeit and looking the part that nobody realized what he was about to do. But I think what's interesting here too is it says, so after receiving, this is verse 30, so after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out and it was night. And what's so interesting is Judas even took communion. He was there in front of everybody. He even took communion, which represents the body broken that he was about to go facilitate. Judas was the catalyst for Jesus's body being broken. And Judas participated even in that, takes the communion, participates in that sacred, holy act, and then goes out. And nobody recognized it. No one knew what he was doing. Judas sat with Jesus. He prayed with Jesus. He witnessed every aspect of Jesus' life and ministry. And he still betrayed him. He faked everybody out. And here's what you have to ask. If proximity is enough for us, and we just have to be close to Jesus or in his group, right? Well, then why would Judas ever betray Jesus? He looked the part. He was in the group. He was the core group. He witnessed the miracles. He walked with Jesus. He talked with Jesus. And he still betrayed Jesus. And you have to ask, why did he ever sign up to be a follower of Jesus, a disciple of Jesus? Was it the optics? Was it the benefits of being a follower of Jesus? All the people, oh, look at the miracles. Ooh, ah. Was it the money? We know that he looked over the money bags. Was it that he was able to take something off the side? And so he was financially able to gain? We know ultimately he betrayed Jesus for coins. Did he ever really grasp why Jesus was performing his miracles? Did he ever really grasp the love of Jesus that he had? Did he ever actually get to know Jesus or have a relationship with Jesus or understand the heart of him? Or was he just there for the optics and the looks and the benefits? Ultimately, we know he did choose the optics. He did choose selfish gains. He took 30 pieces of silver to crucify the Messiah, the Savior of the world. And he never really shared the heart of Jesus through an intimate relationship with him. What's so interesting to me is that even in the betrayal, Judas knew where to find Jesus because Jesus was in the garden praying where he would pray probably every morning. And here it is. He comes to the spot where he knows Jesus prays. And he betrays him with what is considered a sign of devotion in the Jewish culture. He betrayed him with a kiss. Even up through the betrayal and how he betrayed Jesus, he looked the part. When in fact, he didn't have the heart. And that's what we have to think about, which is the third point, and that is Know your why. Why do you say that you're a believer? Why do you say you're a Christian? What's funny is and somebody pointed this out to me the other day. I said, you always say that are you a believer? Are you a follower of Jesus? And I was like, I think it's a big distinction from a Christian. A Christian, I think anybody can say they're a Christian, but are you a follower of Jesus? A follower of Jesus has committed their life to him. He is in their heart, and they are seeking to serve Jesus with all of their being and with all of their heart. And so I think that we have to ask ourselves, are we truly a follower of Jesus? Do we truly love Jesus with all of our mind, body, strength? Why are you here? Why are you a follower of Jesus? Why do you declare to be a follower of Jesus or a Christian? Is it real or is it fake? Is it for the optics, for the personal benefits of it? Or is it because you truly love Jesus and you get what he did for you and you want to live in response to that? Matthew 7:21-23 says, true and false disciples, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I'll tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. That passage always scares me because I think it's such a wake up call and such an important distinction as to, are we doing things maybe in God's name, but we're not doing it for God's name? Are we doing it for ourselves? Everything we do ultimately is supposed to be for Him. It's supposed to be through Him, because of Him, all out of love for His glory, not ours. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do some things, good things, a lot of things, nothing. Again, can we take actions? Can we do things? Yes, but I think what he's speaking to is they don't last. They're not eternal because we did them for ourselves. We did it selfishly and we did not do it with an eternal, lasting purpose. 1 Corinthians 13:1-3. If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal, just making noise. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. There's that word again. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. We keep hearing this nothing, nothing, nothing. And it's not that things aren't being done. It's not that blocks aren't being checked. Things are being done. The list is being checked, but it's still nothing. And why? Because it's not done with love and it's not done for him. It's done for us. And therefore it falls flat. Love is the key. His love for us, our love for him, and then our love for others. It's not the what, it's the why that produces real fruit. If we want to be countercultural and we don't want to be fakes, that when we get cut in life and somebody examines our lives, that they find that we're just styrofoam and plastic or air, fake, phony. We don't want to be the whitewashed tombs that look pretty on the outside and the optics, but on the inside, we're death and decaying rot. No, if we want to be cut open and there's fruitfulness inside, then we have to understand that our lives have to be more than about ourselves. That when we do things, when we show up to church or we read the Bible or we spend time praying, that we're not doing it just to check something off a list. We're doing it because we love Jesus and we desire an intimate relationship with him. And when we do things for others, it's because of God's love for us and it's because of our love for them. And if we are not motivated by that love, if we are not motivated by his love, if we are not fueled by the Spirit, we are not going to have the fruit of the Spirit. And it's going to become very evident when we're cut open and we realize that on the outside it looked good, but on the inside it was fake and phony. It was not real. So I want to encourage you today to make sure that you are not playing the part, checking the blocks, that you aren't like the Tower of Babel, building your own empire for your own glory. You're not the Pharisees out there faking it so that people think they're religious. They think they're righteous. They think they're so great. We have to have the humility, the honesty to say, apart from God, I'm nothing. And I'm doing all of this to have a true, genuine relationship with the Lord, to truly, genuinely make a difference in this world. Because I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be phony. I don't want just the optics. I don't want to be like Judas and be there and play the part, but miss out on the heart. The heart is Jesus. The heart is love. His love for us, our love for him, and our love for others. Well, friends, this concludes this episode of the Real Talk Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you did. Remember, you were handcrafted by God, are dearly loved, and greatly needed in this world. We look forward to seeing you back here next time. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Real Talk. To stay connected, follow Foundation Restoration on Instagram and Facebook at FND Restoration, or visit us at www.foundationrestoration.org for more information. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to follow or subscribe and to leave us a 5-star review so more people can find our show. Foundation Restoration is a 501c3 nonprofit ministry that believes marriage is the heartbeat of society and exists to equip, strengthen, and restore marriages through clinical expertise and a biblical perspective. Please consider supporting our ministry with a tax-deductible donation at www.foundationrestoration.org. Your gift makes programs like this possible. Thank you for your generosity and partnership.